So how much charcoal does your charcoal grill need? In today's video, I'm gonna try to give you guys a general guide to follow that will hopefully help you understand how to be efficient with your charcoal. And we're gonna be using the Weber kettle as an example in today's video. I know it can be intimidating, but with the right mindset, some practice, and gaining that experience, you'll be able to master charcoal grills like a pro. Let's dive in. Okay, let me start off by talking about what this video is going to be and what it's not going to be. It's exactly as it's titled. How much charcoal does your charcoal grill need? It's not going to be talking about necessarily why your grill is not getting hot enough. So if you are experiencing issues with not getting hot enough, you're in luck. I already made a video on that, covering it completely, and there's many different factors to consider. So if you are looking for why your charcoal grill is not getting hot enough, go check out my other video. I do wish you do stick around though, because this is also an important topic. But of course, all the videos that I'm going to be mentioning today will be linked in the tags somewhere over here on the screen, but I'll also put them in the description of this video. Okay, so let's talk about how I do it. I always need some point of reference, and especially when I was first starting out using charcoal grills, it's important to have that point of reference. So we're gonna talk about the different types of charcoal because that matters too. But I just kind of wanted to give you a general idea of how I do it, still do it till this day, and what worked for me. So let's say I'm cooking up 2 steaks or maybe some hamburgers. A good starting point is always to fill up an entire chimney starter. That's usually a good starting point for me, for something casual like steaks, a hamburger, or hot dogs. Now, there are different types of chimney starters. The one that I have here is made by Weber. Very common, very cheap. You can find it almost anywhere. There's also Kingsford's. Kingsford's makes its own chimney starter that works very well. There are some variables, we're gonna talk about that, because filling up an entire chimney starter with briquettes versus lump, let's say, is very different. But generally speaking, if I fill up the entire chimney starter and I ensure that my coals are lit, again, if you're having a hard time lighting your coals, check out my other video. Usually that's a good starting point, and I know I'm gonna have enough coals to cook up some steaks, hot dogs, hamburgers, maybe smoke some salmon, things like that. So we kind of touched up on it, but there are some factors you gotta consider. The first one being, what are you cooking? It all depends on what exactly are you cooking. Are you doing low and slow? Smoking up a brisket for 12, 14 hours? Or are you doing something quick and fast, like steaks, hamburgers? Maybe you're cooking something that has a lot of moisture or that was previously marinated. Maybe you're baking or cooking up a pizza. All those things have factors into how much coal you should actually use. We've already kind of touched up on it, but you can see why it's so important to have a point of reference or a measurement. Just like when you're baking, you have a measurement cup, right? You have to take measurements of things in order to ensure that whatever it is that you're baking comes out right. It's the same thing with barbecues and charcoal grills in particular. Your chimney starter, again, extremely important, is your measuring cup. But like I said, there are some factors to consider when using a chimney starter. Let me show you guys what I mean. When using a chimney starter, you have to kind of be aware of 2 very important factors. The first one being the type of charcoal you're gonna be using. Are you gonna be using lump charcoal or briquettes? That's a big deal. And of course, the second factor is the manufacturer and the brand, because not all manufacturers are the same. Let me show you guys what I mean. Today I have one of my favorite lump charcoal, made by Fogo. It's the premium black bag. I love this bag. The charcoal burns clean, fast, hot, and you get some pretty generous large pieces, which is not always found with the other brands. Highly recommend Fogo, but for the purpose of today's video, let me show you what happens when you dump a bunch of lump charcoal. This is an entire chimney of lump charcoal. You have large pieces, you have tiny pieces. No matter the brand, no matter the type of lump charcoal that you're buying or whatever the advertisement says, you are never going to get consistent, perfect pieces like you would with briquettes. It's just natural with lump charcoal, it's just how it is. And even if you do from the manufacturer, who's to say that by the time it hits the shelves on the store, it hasn't been crushed, broken, or by the time it gets to your house, you may have improperly stored it or the kids got to it and your large lump charcoal pieces are now tiny. So when you go to dump this lump charcoal, that's what it looks like. Really inconsistent, right? And I had some older pieces too. And we're gonna talk about what you can do with old charcoal or reusing charcoal. All right, now let's do the same exact thing with briquettes. I have one of the most popular briquettes on the market today. And honestly, I was a big fan, still is a big fan of this brand. It's the Kingsford's Originals. They are probably the best budget buy for briquettes that I know of on the market. If you do want premium briquettes, Fogo also makes their own briquettes that are completely 100% natural with natural binders. And I've recently switched to Fogo. Absolutely love Fogo, but I do keep occasionally a bag or two of Kingsfords around because Kingsfords are just such a great buy when it comes to price and, you know, the value of it. The downsides are they don't burn as hot or clean. So eventually I think you will outgrow them, but I mean, I am very keen to buying these when they're on sale. Okay, so I'm sure with the pour itself, you guys can already tell a huge difference. This is a full chimney of briquettes, and I may have put a little too much. Let's be fair. We'll skim off the very top. There. There's a huge difference between briquettes and lump. These are much more consistent in size. You're not gonna get a mixed bag of briquettes. They're all gonna be the same density, the same size. They're gonna be compressed into the shape. I have found that briquettes are extremely reliable and consistent, and it's why I prefer them most of the time over lump charcoal. Now, just like lump charcoal, briquettes can be different. We already talked about Fogo versus Kingsfords. I found that Fogo definitely burns longer, cleaner, and hotter than Kingsfords. And of course, with lump charcoal, depending on the brand, lump charcoal is in general known to be a little bit hotter, burns a little bit hotter, but not as longer. But there are lump charcoal that cater to burning longer and a little bit more for low and slow. Now, regarding taste, briquettes versus lump, I can sometimes taste the difference between them. I mean, sometimes lump does taste a little bit more smoky or woody, but I can also tell you that it also depends on the brand. Like Fogo, for example, is just known for being a little bit more smoky and woody in general compared to Kingsfords. Now, if we go to dump it out, that's the difference that you're getting. The briquettes are much more uniform, much more consistent, so you're able to pack more, much more densely into the chimney starter than you would the lump charcoal. Just by design, because the lump charcoal comes in different sizes, right? Inside the bag, you're gonna get different pieces, right? With different thicknesses, lengths, densities, whatever. It's gonna occupy more air in the chimney starter, and every time you fill up a chimney starter, you're gonna get different levels of charcoal. But with briquettes, you're always gonna get pretty much the same thing, maybe minus 1 or 2 pieces. So what if you didn't add enough charcoal? No worries, it's actually a very easy fix. See, that's the beauty of charcoal. You've already kind of lit your coals. So if you ever need to add more, it's as simple as adding more. As long as your coals are fully lit. Give the charcoal that you're adding on top of the coals some time to fully ignite. So you may want to take a little break or maybe remove the food for a bit and give the charcoal 10 to 15 minutes to ignite and get rid of some of that nasty smoke, if there is any nasty smoke. But in general, you can kind of pick up where you left off. Now, it's also really important to remember that charcoal does not like to be alone. Charcoal likes to work together. So if you do need to add more charcoal, you also need to be mindful and remember that charcoal likes to be with company. in order to fully ignite and be efficient and ultimately serve you, right, in your cooking needs. It's a slight inconvenience, it's a slight delay initially until you get the hang of it, but with experience it should happen less and less, and you won't need to necessarily add too much more charcoal. Now, of course, even the pros will have to add charcoal depending on what they're cooking, right? I mean, if they're doing low and slow for a long duration of time, so don't let it necessarily make you feel like, you know, you're not getting the hang of it. Adding charcoal is a very natural thing. Just with experience, you'll learn how to do it properly, and you won't need to do it as frequently or because you didn't add enough. So what if you put way too much charcoal? What should you do then? There's nothing that says you can't reuse old charcoal or previously lit charcoal. Now, of course, there's some caveats. Not everything is black and white, but you're also in luck because I did a video on that, completely explaining the benefits and the pros and cons of using old charcoal or reused charcoal. You'll actually be really surprised just how much energy is still stored in pre-used charcoal. Basically, when you're done with your cookout and you've completely shut down your grill and your charcoal is now off, it's not lit anymore, and make sure that your grill's cold to the touch, you just want to take out the charcoal and make sure you store them in an area or a bin, preferably a bin that's sealable, away from moisture and all the elements. If you do that, your charcoal, your pre-used charcoal or previously used charcoal will actually last a really long time, and there'll be a lot of energy still stored in them. So this is extremely beneficial because not only are they perfectly fine to reuse on their own, for example, if you have something really quick that you want to do, like just cook some steaks or something like that, reused charcoal is more than enough and more than capable to do that if you have enough of it. Eventually your used bin of charcoal will grow, and there's nothing that says you can't mix and match, right? New charcoal with pre-used or old charcoal and so forth. So in the long run, it's going to also help you save a lot of money and be much more efficient. Make sure you check out my other videos, the videos that I've been kind of suggesting and mentioning to you guys that I've previously done. I'll put a link in the description of this video of all the videos that I think will be helpful that are related to this subject. I really do hope you found this video informative, and if you did, please consider subscribing and joining our channel membership so we can continue making videos like this one. I would really appreciate it. Leave me a comment below if you have any issues and any problems. I'll try to troubleshoot them and suggest the next video. Take care, everybody.